And we are live. At least I believe we're live. Let's see here if we're live. And oh, yeah, absolutely. Welcome to the live broadcast. So today I am actually broadcasting live in my home studio, as you can see with the elephant in the background. I'm about to leave on a trip. But before I go, I was like, you know what? I need to make a broadcast discussing with the peoples. We need to have a conversation, okay? Okay. So the reason why I want to have this conversation with you is okay. Someone sent me an Instagram DM. It's like, hey, so and so person referred me to you. And it's like, hey, I'm looking for some side hustle. I'm looking for some extra income. I want to make some more moolah. I want to make some more money. And I was like, okay, good. Totally. Let's go ahead and have a conversation. So I went ahead, I discussed with him. I was like, so why do you want a side hustle? Why do you want another business? Why do you want to do something? Why? He's like, I need the extra money. I need some more money. I was like, okay, fair. 100%. I totally get you. How much time are you willing to devote? Okay, this is very important. It's like how much time are you willing to devote in a daily, monthly basis? And it's like I really don't know, and I don't think most people have actually realized and actually discussed with themselves to actually ask themselves this question: as to am I willing to do what it takes to get what I want? Right? Am I willing to do what it takes to get what I want? Because the reality is this: is whether you make, whether right now you need money because I'm gonna go. Let me go ahead and share my screen right now. So um, I'm feeling the move right now, guys. I'm feeling the groove. Let's see here which one I'm gonna go share my screen on. It'd be nice if I actually go ahead and pre-plan this, guys. I would be genuinely honest with you. I don't anything that I do. I just go ahead and just do it. I was like, yeah, you know what? I want to make this. I want to go ahead and do this. But yeah, there you go. Let's get the whiteboard up. Okay. Here's the thing: is you have to understand is it doesn't matter if you, let's say your goal is you want to make some bills, right? Let's say paying bills is something that's on your calendar, right? That's something that's on top of your mind. That's something that's a priority to you. If that's something that you are like, hey, you know what, I want to go ahead and be able, then that's perfectly fine. That's totally understandable. That's totally respectable. But you have to do what are you willing to sacrifice to be able to get to the point at which you're able to make as much money as needed to be able to pay your bills. Because the reality is, most people. I'll go ahead and this. I'll be very generous with you. I can't speak for everybody. I wish I could speak for everybody, but unfortunately, I can't speak for everybody. But I can say this, right? When I say this to you, is being in a point in which you have to struggle financially, it's nowhere anybody wants to be. Because is the genuine honest reality is most people associate their identity with how much money they make. Most people associate their beliefs with how much money and what they provide. It's not that money in some way changes, who you are, or does something special or unique per se. But I would say money does give you freedom. So back in 20, this is a very interesting story. But back in 2015, I just come back from studying in flight school, and I went back home to see my mother. And then obviously 2015, I came to become a flight instructor to teach people how to fly airplanes. So if you guys didn't know my background, basically, I've been in the aviation roughly almost 10, 11 years. And what's interesting is when I first got in, when I first, was like, you know what, hey, I want to go ahead and, teach people how to fly. Let's just say it was a coming to Jesus moment, because the first year, I had to learn one simple habit, one simple trait. Because guess what? I had realized, and even my at time was like, dude, how in God's name are you able to even, how did you make it to this point? And that was because one, I've always been a really good sweet talker. But the most important thing about it was I didn't have one, which was discipline. I didn't have the discipline to go ahead and pursue my goals. I didn't have the discipline to go ahead and do but just to basically summarize, so 2015, I came, I learned how to fly, but right after I was done, I was offered a job, but I was making, I would say give or take about bucks. I was making roughly about $300. Okay, $300 per month. Okay, I was doing about $300, 300 average, give or take. It all depends. I would probably be at like maybe a what you call it. I'll be at maybe 11 shift sometimes. So I went from 7 to 11. But the way the structure was set up, it wasn't set up in a way in which you could. because then again, the operations was designed in a way in which they could be profitable. But to kind of get you to understand the perspective was, I worked this job for three. I was making 300 a month. I was working this job, and it was probably the most time telling. I don't want to go back to that time. I don't. I generally don't. True was I could barely pay my bills. I could barely. I remember those people familiar with the McDonald's McChicken. So I remember this. So the menu on the $1 menu, there was a dollar menu, and I remember taxes was about 8 cents. It was about 8 cents. So I usually would have about $1.08. So I'd live on the McDonald's McChicken, and so that's why right now I don't go. I'm not talking trash about McDonald's. Phenomenal company, phenomenal what they've done, but I would not. To tell you this is I could not spend any extra money, so I would buy ramen noodles, boil chicken, and I was able to live for about 30 to. And one, I couldn't cook because the one time, I'm gonna tell you this straight up, the one time that I said, you know what, I am going to cook. I looked up this recipe. Okay, guys, never try to cook off of a recipe that you see on YouTube. But and on YouTube, they're like, hey, this is what you do. You fry the oil, and after you fry the oil, then you add. It was a sequence, but you probably listen to this and you're going, wait, did he just say boiling oil and then add water? That's how I saw it. I saw it as I'm gonna boil the oil hot and then put some water in it, and that's exactly what I did. So if you want to take a guess, what ended up happening? Just take a guess. Take a guess. I'm gonna leave you right. Guess what ended up happening. What ended up happening was, as you would guess, the kitchen caught on fire. Well, not the kitchen, but the surrounding area caught on fire. And then my keys at the time said, "You know what, Emmanuel? If you want to put this fire out, you need to add more water." So what do you think I did? I added more water, and what do you think more happened? More fire. So that was my one attempt at cooking. So now you understand why I say one, I'm not cooking is not something I really want to have any interest in doing in any way, shape, or form. And at that point in time, I was also would okay. This is so fun. I would because I don't know if you guys use the I'm not a big fan of the dating sites, but I had tried a dating site called Plenty of Fish at the time. Worst, I don't think I recommend it to anybody. I've not used any dating site since then. I have no interest in it, but on it, get off of it. I don't know how it's changed in the past decade, but if you're on it, get off. But long story short, I was on there and I still managed $100 a month income go on dates. I mean, I think that was some savage moments if you ask me. That was very savage moments if you ask me. But oh my god, it's so funny. I think about those days and I'm like, I don't know how, but I remember the one time challenge was when back then I used to go to a local church. It was a local church, and there was about maybe 12 small. So we everybody knew each other. So every day after church, me, all of us would go to like a buffet, and then the pastor would take care of it. And I remember we were as we were leaving, me and her were having a conversation. I was sitting in the front seat, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. She's like, what do you mean? I don't. I'm like, I barely. I'm surviving. I'm 6'3", 136 pounds. 6'3", 100 pounds. Basically, I was so skinny that I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like, and I remember I told her, she was like, what do you, I was like, I don't know what to do. It's like, I've tried everything. I'm working my ass off. I'm putting in the work. I don't know what's going on. And she was like, okay. She's like, just be patient. Just be patient. And I remember, a couple weeks later, I was praying and I was like, I said, hey, God, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know if this is genuinely, the life you designed for me, but I'm begging you, if this is it, I don't want this, give me the life that you promised to me. And, it was about a long drawn prayer. And I did that. And, let's just say the way everything happened was very weird because I was dating this girl at the time because I was overqualified for the position, maybe $300 a month. And I was working with this girl I was dating at the time, and she was like, she had resume. I didn't know this, and she had sent it over to a new, to a different company, and they saw it and they're like, wow, we want to have a meeting with this guy. So I ended up going in for the interview. I went in for the interview, and it was a very interesting interview because I wasn't prepared because she told me the day before the basically at that interview. I basically went into the interview and I was having a conversation. You know, everybody was neatly dressed. I didn't have that much. I had one jeans and one. I wouldn't say even it was a professional. Had probably it was as close enough to professional as you can get. And I remember I went to the interview. I had probably the highest score in the on the final round because it was about 4 rounds. And the final round, um, he was the guy doing the interview was like, I honestly we the way you're dressed right now is so unprofessional. It's like, and I was like, I don't have any clothes. He's like, I was like, I don't have anything to, and he's like, well, he's like, but your scores were phenomenal. You scored the highest in the test. He's like, would like to give you offer you the position, and I was like, okay. So I was like, can you start? I believe it was can you start Monday, which was the following Monday, and I was like, sure, okay. So he told me the rate. It was going to be about an extra $500 a month. So I was like, oh, cool, okay, I'll take it. So just for anyone to recap, in the state, this was 2015 time now. So which means this is now predating in a sense as to there is literally 2016. Try to live on $800 a month. That's $200 a week. Okay, that's not even as a single guy for you to even live off of. Okay, and I remember I started in the position. I was there, and I believe it was October of 16. It was either October 16, but it was late 16. And I was at the role for like 3 4 months, and this was like a year or so after. Well, I wouldn't say a year, maybe a few months after I prayed to God and God. And like I'd say 5 months in a worst case, 5 months give or take, 6 months. We're in a upper management position that I was overqualified for the position I was in, ended up quitting. So they all quit. So I remember at the time that they quit, I ended up, they called me in the office. They're like, "Hey, Emmanuel," and I was like, "Why? What's the reason?" They're like, "No, no, no, you're not in trouble. You're not in trouble. We don't want to recommend you for anything, but we just want to let you know that we're basically promoting you." That's basically what they put it, and it ended up being, 6 months, like 4 or 5 grand a month. Right? I was like, "That's insane." Say this, I the same schedule that I always had, which was working from 7 to 11, 7 to 7 on the schedule. But the difference was now I made more money. But then you're like, why is it that you're making more money? I'm going to cover two things. So the three reasons, two things I want to cover here is the way money works is. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. Let's go ahead now and share that screen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now because I want you to basically go ahead and pay attention to this. So I want you to pay attention. What changed my income was the number one thing there, which was position. Now, if my handwriting sucks, it's because it does. But I want you to think about it from a perspective of, let's say we have 4 people that work a job, all right? 4 people that work a job, and they all have different positions, right? They all work the same shift. Level position, you have the entry level position here. I don't know. Let's say they entered, 1 year experience, just they're making, $15 an hour. All right. And then you have a middle level, maybe you're handling it, maybe making $45 an hour. This is just saying, and then now you have the manager, whatever it is, making $60 an hour. And then you have a company that is now making an hourly rate, making a, this is bringing in 1 million a year, and then he's keeping 30%. So now he's making 300 a year, right? So that's all depends. So the reason why I'm saying, reason why each and every one of their incomes are completely different is not because they are inherently position they occupy. So which means I want you to understand that the amount of money that you make is in direct proportion to, all right, let me go ahead and let's delete this. In direct proportion to basically the value, okay, and the difficulty. I remember about difficulty there is in replacing you, okay. provide and the difficulty that there is in replacing you will determine the amount of money that you make. For instance, if you're in a position in which you are easily replaced, you're going to be paid less. Hence, the reason why you got paid less. So, and then the value that you provide, you may be thinking you're providing a lot of value, but the company does not see your value, right? Because the thing is, reality, and if people do not perceive you as valuable, then they pay you indirect, which is not valuable, right? So that's something that I in mind is if you don't see yourself as making that much money, it's because genuinely people do not see you as providing value. Okay, so that's something I want you to keep in mind. So the value that you provide and the difficulty that there is in replacing you is in direct proportion to determine how much money. So basically, how do you provide more value? How do you provide more value is very important in the sense to remember I mentioned earlier, I was overqualified for the position that I was in. In which I was in a position here and I was over, and then basically at some point my value was seen, and then obviously I was taken to a much better position. But so I want you to think about it from a perspective as to if you are much money is because of you are not being seen as valuable, but then you're probably going to go, well, I am valuable, I provide some value. That's just entitlement and not just being arrogant and just being egotistic. Take a step back and think about this and say, hey, okay, how do I provide the most value in which I there's going to be a difficulty of replacing me? That's where knowledge comes in. You have to be learning. Most people are broke is because they've never picked up a book. There's $100, from someone, just put it in the middle of a book. They will not see it, right? And that's because why you don't read is because you see it as boring. You have to understand. And here's the reality is the boring things that you do today will eventually become the fruitful things that you reap tomorrow. So which means the thing that you see today is boring. The thing that you see today is like, oh my God, this sucks. This is terrible. This is bad. This is this. I have to sit 2 hours to grind to do this. You may see this as boring, but you have to understand something is I'm going to say this, okay? If you're a farmer, say you're a farmer, okay, and I say this is you farming. Any farmer will tell you that planting seeds and planting is not the fun part. It's not fun and to seed, but eating the fruits of your labor is phenomenal. Imagine this. Imagine you go if it is most people might say hunting is a fun, but eating the fruits of your labor, knowing that seed. I planted a seed of 100, 200 seeds, 300 seeds, and then at the end of it all, I reaped. This is what this is what I'm harvesting, and then I harvest it, and then I eat it. You have to understand is you have to be willing to do things that you don't feel comfortable doing. Like for instance, this I literally woke up a few hours ago, worked out, worked, and I'm like, I'm gonna turn on the camera and do a and I'm like, hey, my goal and objective is to push and do 100 live videos before the end of the year. So I have to do 100 live videos. So if I keep hey, I got to have the right PowerPoint. I got to have everything in order. I got to have the right subject matter expertise. I got to have the right details. I got to have the right stats. I got to have the right this. I got to have the right that. That is just going and the quest for perfection is going to lead to procrastination. But I was like, hey, listen, I'm going to reps to doing as many lives as I possibly can. I'm going to live stream on YouTube this live. And maybe next one I'm gonna live stream on YouTube and Twitch. I'm gonna try to see if I can do YouTube and Twitch. And then I'm gonna live stream on here. But the reality is this is one is I learned how live works. Honestly, I'm not the expert. I have two laptops right now where everything works and how everything goes so I can be able to run a smooth operation. So this is not necessarily the best life. I'm not like in a fancy studio, fancy background, fancy everything. I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna take action, right? So because the thing is this is I the name of the game is this is the name of the game is obviously content. Content is everything right now. But the name of the game is this is I am trying to get the knowledge of doing lives because 6 months I have a plan of doing webinars. I want to do webinars in which I get 7,000 people to join me live on Facebook, on different platforms, and then at some point get it to 50, 60, 70,000 people on the live. So for me, this is about me getting the reps in to get the practice. So whatever it is that you have to do in your life, on camera, honestly, I kind of do. But that's a talk for another day. That's a talk for another time. But you kind of have to put yourself in a perspective of I need to go get the reps in. I need to become invaluable to my company, which would I have to be replacing me will make them pay me premium dollars. Boss right now, you're working a 9 to 5 regular job and you went to your boss. I want a raise. They're gonna tell you to get the, you know, F out of the office because You're replaceable. But if you go and when you go to your boss and you're like, hey, listen, I am, I want to raise this, or this company's already looking for me. They'll be like, okay, you know what? If we don't keep him, someone else will. So let's keep him in this business. So that's another thing that you want to kind of go ahead and think about. There is the value that there is you provided. Now, another thing is difficult to replace. I pretty much covered that. But this is another kind of go ahead and share with you here, which is if you notice a few months before that I had, what was the one thing? I'm not trying to make this a really I wholeheartedly believe in God. Was I I prayed. That's it. I prayed. I was like, hey God, listen. God, because the reality is you have to think about it is if you are if you and 10 other people providing the same amount of value, what makes you unique? I'm a very big believer in 80% of everything that happens to us is spiritual and 20 is physical. Okay? And you control the physical by prayer, thought process. That's it. By praying and thought process. Now, this is not a sexist podcast. I'm not trying to. This is not even a podcast. Honestly, this is probably even a rant. I'm not going to say it's a podcast, but it's by prayer. So that's the thing is, I have always believed in praying to God, 1,000,000%. You will never see me say no. I will never sell out my faith, right? And then another thing is the way you think. What? How does your mind operate? Right? Are you someone who believes a lot in scarcity? Because if you're broke, you're probably thinking about scarcity. You have to think about it from a perspective. Think about your currency. Think about it from a perspective of the dollar. The Federal Reserve, or whatever it is, they print out the dollar, they give it to you, and then they tax it and take it back. And then you're like, okay, yeah. So of how money works, right? Is a lot of it, obviously, you get inflation, and if they didn't print it that much, obviously, you raise the scarcity, and then you kind of reduce a little bit. But that's kind of talk for another days. Thinking in your mind right now, and the thought processes that you're applying in your mind right now will determine a lot. When I mean it's a lot, it will determine a lot in your life because I believe that the way you, the results that you get in your life, and if you're somebody who is a big advocate and a big negative with money, okay, if you're a single guy, you're going to struggle with women, or if you're vice versa, struggle with men. You're going to struggle to get the assets that you require because you believe in things in the senses to the physical. I personally believe in miracle. So if I think about it from a perspective of you need to have faith in things that you haven't seen, but believe it long. You end up believing in something and then they lose faith halfway, and the reason halfway is because they don't see the results. And that's where the last thing comes in is patience. Patience. If you're patient right now, if you patiently wait, if you're patient, the results that you want, you will get. The results that you want in your life, you will get if you are only willing to be patient. You have to understand is to make $1,000 might require, think about what your goals and your aspirations in time horizons. To make 1,000, or let's say 1,000 a year, depends on what country you're watching this, you know, might require a patience of 6 months. Okay, give or take, or 6 days, right? To make 100,000 a year might require a patience of to 6 years, right? And then to make 1,000,000 might require a patience of 6 to 10 years, right? But you have to be willing to think in a longer time frame because guess what ends up happening is if you don't think long enough, if you don't think more of a longer time horizon, you're going to end up irrational decisions or basically very making the wrong decisions that will end up putting you in trouble because everyone believes in the concept of quick money. I'm going to say this: fast money comes with slow. So if you're focused on, hey, how can I make some fast money? You're going to end up getting. I'm just being very genuine honest with you. So I am making this to basically kind of make you understand, and we're going to just go ahead and recap a few things that we spoke about here. Let's recap a few things. What is the first thing that I said? I said basically the difficulty that there is in replacing you, okay, will eventually determine how much your income is going to be. Okay, your income. Okay, but like I said, my handwriting is kind of trash, so do not come for me. You come for me in the comments with my chicken scratch. Well, I'm just not really. But next thing we're going to talk about is okay. Let's talk about the positioning. Okay, what is the position that you're in right now? Are you in a position in which you are the $15 an hour, thousand an hour, in a position with 6,000 an hour, or you're in a position with 300,000 a year? Okay, and next thing we'll talk about is let's talk about prayer. Even if you're like, I don't believe in God, just quiet. I mean, you can even meditate. Meditation is something that can work. You can even say, hey, you know what? I'm going to meditate. That's perfectly fine. You can go ahead and meditate as well. That's totally okay. You know? And then we spoke about position. We spoke about prayer. And obviously, let's see here. What's the last one? I'm not using talking points, guys. So um, recap with me here. Patience. How patient are you? If you are really, really being honest with yourself, how patient are you? Ask yourself that question. The most patient person, just be genuinely honest with yourself right now. If I were to ask you, hey, James, hey, Janet, hey, June, hey, Julie, hey, Monica, hey, Rita, hey, this person, hey, that person. Ask yourself this question: is how patient are you? How patient are you? Because if patience is something that you are not willing to endure, and if you're not disciplined enough to say, hey, you know what, I am going to be patient, I'm going to wait for my goals, I am going to, we're in the live, guys, so basically I'm multitasking right now. So everyone's kind of like, dude, you're online, you're on camera, and you're like doing multiple things at once. Yes, because I am Mr. Producer here, so I got to do Mr. Producer stuff, and Mr. Producer stuff sometimes involves me basically doing as Mr. Producer. But how patient are you with stuff? Content. I'm not trying to make sexy content. I have no, because the reality is you can go watch sexy content out there. But I want to make sure that people who watch me, your life eventually gets better. Is to basically show you and get you to understand what it takes to build and grow your business, right? And also just right now, type in my name, Emmanuel Igwe. Podcast. Type in my name, Emmanuel Igwe. Consume the podcast wherever you are, because guess what? I'm uploading this on YouTube and all different platforms to make sure that you guys are getting the most value possible. Listen, the most value possible. All right, and by all means, let me know what you think. This content genuinely sucks, but like, hey, it sucks. If you have a question for me that you want me to, and if you want a recommendation, hey Manuel, let's talk about this on the next live. Because guess what? I'm probably gonna do another live tomorrow as well. But I'm not gonna have this background because I'm actually gonna be on the road, so which means you're probably gonna have a lot of hotel background. I'm to doing 100 live streams. It's gonna be a very, very, very different topics. We're gonna talk about everything, even dating. Some I might even give you my tips on dating, and someone's gonna click the content and be like, "Oh my god, this guy's saying all this stuff." Eh, that's up to you. Honestly, I'm gonna do me. But that's pretty much all I have for you guys. And obviously, like I said, enjoy. And what else am I gonna say? What's the? Let me stop sharing my screen right now so you guys could be like, you know, enjoy, have fun. I'll see you on the next live, and definitely let me know what you think. If this guy added value to you, hit the like button. Okay, don't be a shadow watcher. Okay, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and obviously I'm live guests to actually some more guests actually join me on the live, but we could go ahead and do a live stream as well. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys. And obviously, as you know, as I always